Edgardo Borgio. I would say he is probably my favourite player of the save, Edgardo Borgio. We had him on loan at Dusseldorf. We loaned him for 2 seasons, and then we brought him with us to Wolfsburg from Fortuna Dusseldorf. Only paid 13 mil for him, and he's now worth £57 million, and he is a fantastic left back. What's going on, guys? My name is Adam. I am a Super Swan. And welcome to Club 5, Episode 11 of the FM19 Brexit Manager, where Brexit means Brexit. I've had a couple of days to calm down since the Champions League final. The series is over. We've won the Champions League with Napoli. Spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the last episode, Go watch episode 10 and see how we got on. So what we're going to do, we've got 2 episodes left. We're going to take this episode to, look back on our career and see how we've done, and look back at our clubs, see where they are now. And the next episode is going to come out on Wednesday, is going to be 10 years in the future. How do our clubs get on 10 years down the line? So this is the profile page of us as we leave the Brexit Manager. Say we had everything on 1 to start with, and now we've got 20 in man management, 20 in motivating. Our best coaching is technical on 16. A few others are low. We've got attacking 15, defending 13, fitness 4. Look at the size of me. I'm not really surprised by that. Goalkeeping, we were never really a goalkeeping coach. Working with youngsters 1. Considering we brought a lot of youngsters in, I'm surprised it's only 1. But, we've got to be, we can't be perfect, can we? But that is our manager profile. If there's anything you want to see, let me know down in the comments and I'll do my best to show it off. I'll take a screenshot and put it on Twitter or something like that. We are a 4.5-star reputation manager, superb rating. We've got a contract till 2030, but we're not going to see that out, as we are going to get to the end of our career. And what we'll do, if we look at let's have a look, contract, how do we look at our overview? So that's the overview, job history. So we're going to work our way from oldest to newest. We're going to start at the bottom, work our way up. So our first season in 2019, we took over in the November. We took over KuPS of Finland and we brought them 2 league titles. We're not going to focus on the awards, it's more the competition wins we're going to focus on. And in our first season, we won the Finnish Premier League. The second season, we did the double, the Finnish Cup and the Finnish Premier League. We did so well with KuPS. I remember the first season, it took to the very last day. We didn't think we were going to win the league. And the very last day, we did win the Finnish league title. So that is Kupion Palloseura, the club that gave us a chance. In 2019, we are now nearly 10 years on from that day, because we took over in about November 2018. I've got my dates wrong there. So we are nearly 10 years on at KuPS. Are there any names we recognise in the team? Jari Juvonen was a player. He was in our youth academy when we left. He's now 25 years old and he does look to be a starter. 53 goals for KuPS. I remember him in the youth academy. He's had 6 caps for Finland, 2 goals. So nice to see someone breaking through the KuPS academy and getting into the first team. Anybody else? Agyapong is still there. 31 years old. We played him on the wing, but they seem to be playing him up front. For KuPS, Thomas Agyapong. He was our first big player that we got in from KuPS. And he's doing very well, still there, nearly 10 seasons on. Look at that. So yeah, it will be coming up to his 10th season. Doing really well for them. And he was a really important winger when we brought him in on a free transfer. He seems to be doing very well for himself. Diogo Mendes, we got him in as well. 30 years old, is a Mazzella. 137 games, 24 goals for KuPS. I think we brought him in the second season we were there. Anybody else I recognise? Not really. Not really anybody else I recognise there. So if we look at their competitions, so if we go to senior squad competitions, we've got Finnish Premier League. Let's have a look how they've been getting on in the Finnish Premier League. So obviously they don't operate on a normal season. They operate, I believe it's like from March to November. So they are in the middle of their season at the moment and they are in 4th place. So they are a good 6 points off the pace of SJK. If we look at the past winners, so we won it 2019-2020. They won it the season after. So even after we left, they still won the Finnish Premier League the year after. But they did go for a 4-year barren spell between 2022 and 2026. But they did retain the title. They did get it back in 2026. But they lost it out to IFK Maraham, who we had some run-ins with as we got into the further seasons. So they did win 2 further league titles, did KuPS. Did they win any more Finnish Cups? Let's have a look. We won it in the second season we were there, we won it. So we won it 2020. They won it 2 years after on the bounce, 2021, 2022. And then Maraham, HJK, they did win it back 2027, so they did have a little bit of a resurgence, but they have lost it in the recent season to TPS. So KuPS have maintained their success as we left them. Who took over when we left? Let's have a look. So we were here. So we took over the 13th of November 2018. We left in 2021. 2 years and 104 days. We're the longest serving manager since they left. So they had Mika Lukuso. He only lasted 2 He lasted 2 years to him. Fair play. He did win the Finnish Cup twice and went to the Finnish Premier League once. Where's he these days? Unemployed. And he went to HJK afterwards as well. So came from HJK, went to KuPS, went back to HJK, and he's been unemployed for about a season. So they took on then Tony Korakunas, who didn't win anything. He is now manager of SJK, so they've kept it local. So yeah, he pretty much went from KuPS to SJK. They then had a caretaker manager. They went to Nicholas Moisander. He's an international, isn't he? Yeah, he won 62 caps for Finland, so they got an international player in the squad, and he left to go to William II in, I believe, in Holland, I think they are based in. Yeah, the Eredivisie. So he got himself upgraded, and now he's in charge of Groningen, so doing very well for himself, Moisander. He's working his way up the managerial ladder, and he didn't get sacked. He left his role, so he did go on to bigger and better things, as did we. So they then took on Mika Mikatalo. He only lasted 284 days. And, to be fair, Moisander did win the Premier League. I did miss that, so he won the Premier League. Mikatalo won the Finnish Cup. He's now manager of Leeds. So he's gone up in the food chain as well. He's got himself a cushy little position in charge of Leeds. He won the Finnish Cup. And now they've got Mikko Sumosalo in charge. He hasn't won anything yet. He is still in charge as well. So he's got 7 caps for Finland, 1 goal. So he's going to be looking to make a name for himself. So since we left KuPS, they've got, I think it was an extra 2 league titles and 3 Finnish Cups or somewhere along there. So KuPS have done pretty well for themselves since we left. They have established themselves as a strong Finnish team. And now they will be looking, they are predicted to come second. So they've got to do well if they're going to keep up their momentum. So after we left KuPS, we moved to Austria Vienna, who I would say is the hardest club we got to since we took over. We did finish second twice, because we took over them halfway through the first season. And we did come second in the first season, and we came second in the second season as well. We just couldn't break the Red Bull Salzburg monopoly whilst we were in charge of Austria Vienna. And the problem was as well is that we couldn't get into the Finnish Cup because the way it was, because there was a bug in the game that because Austria Vienna had a second team, they were disqualified from the Finnish Cup. So that meant that Austria Vienna were disqualified from the Finnish Cup. So I think if they had a Finnish Cup, I probably would have stayed an extra season to try and win some silverware. But because they didn't have a cup and we weren't really getting anywhere with Austria Vienna, that was why we made the move to, I think it was Fortuna Dusseldorf after that. So a few known players here. Patrick Pence still at Austria Vienna at 31 years old. He's not their first team anymore, but he was a very good goalkeeper, really good at penalties, if I remember rightly, when we were in charge. It was good to see him still at the club. Loic Miso is at Austria Vienna. We had him at Dusseldorf. We had him on loan from PSG, I believe it was. So yes, it was PSG. So he made his way over to our former team in Austria Vienna. He's still there with £50 million. And some top teams are in for him. Monaco, Lyon and Atletico Madrid. So he has carved himself out a pretty good career. He was a youngster when we had him at Dusseldorf. So he's carved himself a nice career there. Simone Payet, I know we signed him, but I don't think we ever had the chance to use him because he had a lot of pace. And they seem to be using him as a full back as opposed to a winger. But, I mean, I would have played him on the wing, to be honest. He's with £27 million. Porto are after him. And he does look like a really good winger, or a good inside forward, at least, on that right-hand side. He's either-footed, so he'd be a really good player. He's number 2, so they've obviously been using him as a full-back, although he's a winger there. Luka Ilic, we got him in. He's still at Austria Vienna, 28 years old, bossing the advanced playmaker. 132 appearances, 32 goals for Austria Vienna. Santino is still there, the Brazilian we got in. You know, he's £31 million, so he's really improved himself as a player. 16 dribbling, 17 crossing. I'd use him as a winger as opposed to an inside forward, but he looks like a really good player. He's come on a bit there. Any other names I recognise? Malakar is still there. He wasn't that good when we had him in front of, we had him as Austria Vienna manager. We spent big money on him at the time, £9 million, which was a lot of our transfer budget. He only scored 7 goals, but he did look like he kicked on after we left. 14 goals, 15 goals, 11 goals. So he has been in the goals whilst in charge of Austria Vienna. So Malakar didn't hit the heights whilst we were there, but he did look like he did kick on after we left. So Austria Vienna, I know, have done very well for themselves since we left. If I can go into the history... No, I want to go into the schedule... No, it's not the schedule I want. Overview. We want competitions. So if we look at the competitions, they did lose out the most recent season to Salzburg. But if we look at the Austrian Premier League, I know for a fact that they have won the league since we left. Because I think... What year did we leave? I think it was 22-23 we left, but they did win the league title in 24-25 and 26-27, so they did do really well for themselves in the leagues. They have won a couple of league titles in Austria. Obviously, they haven't got an Austrian FA Cup to look at, and I know for the Champions League, they reached the first knockout round of the Champions League, which again is such an impressive achievement for Austria Vienna to reach that far in the Champions League. So fair play, they have kicked on since we left them. And if we go far back, so yeah, it was 22-23 that we left for Fortuna Dusseldorf. So what year did they win the league? So it was 22-23 we left. So it was 2 seasons after they won the league. So I think we built the shell, we built them up, that team, to take them over, and they did win the Austrian Premier League. So 2 league titles for Austria Vienna since we left, and some of the players are still there. So it'll be interesting to see where some of the other players have got to. So we did leave Austria Vienna, we went into Germany in charge of Fortuna Dusseldorf. The first season we had them was in the Bundesliga 2. They just got relegated from the Bundesliga, so we had to get them back into the Bundesliga, which we did do. We did win the Bundesliga 2 title, and then in the second season we got them into 6th place, which was a Europa League place, which was a really good finishing place for Fortuna Dusseldorf as we left them. We did have half a season with them as well before we took charge of Wolfsburg, and we did get them in 6th place again before we left them in the January. So I think we left Dusseldorf in a very good position when we left them, and we got in some very, very exciting players whilst we were in charge of Dusseldorf. So looking at the squad of Fortuna Dusseldorf, there are a few names I do recognise. Asia Ortega, he's playing centre-back for them. I know we brought him in as a deep-line playmaker to potentially train in midfield, but they do look like they're training him as a centre-back, and he's a pretty good centre-back, to be honest. He's 6'2", good jumping reach, so I'm surprised we didn't try and train him as a centre-back, to be honest with you, but he is still at the club with £8 million, and he's wanted by Juventus. So a big team are in for these players. Asia Ortega, Who else have we got? Stojkovic. I'm sure we brought Stojkovic in. If we look at no, it's not scouting report it's the career stats. I'm sure it was us that brought him in. Yeah, the second season, it was the £12.5 million. I know we brought him in as a winger, but again, they look to be playing him as a fullback. Wanted by Schalke with £23 million. Training him as a complete wing-back, which, I mean, he hasn't really got the tackling for a wing-back, but he looks like a fantastic winger. So it looks like he's carved himself a very decent career, although he's playing left-back, wanted by Schalke. Marcos is still there. This is the one we overspent on the wages on because Red Bull Leipzig were after him as well. So we managed to bring him in for, £13 million. He does look like a very good player, mind. If I was still in charge of Napoli, I would want to bring this guy in. He'd be worth 32 mil, but look at these stats for a deep line playmaker. He's got everything you need to play as a deep line playmaker. He is worth 25 mil, wanted by Bournemouth, Monaco, Bayern, Barcelona, and Valencia. So a lot of big teams in for Marcos. And if I was still in charge of Napoli, I think I'd probably be in for him as well. But who else we got? Caetano. What a winger. We had him in charge whilst we were in the Bundesliga too, and he looks to have developed into an absolute beast of a winger. You know, he's got 16 dribbling, 16 crossing, got a lot of pace to him. He's going to be worth £68 million if someone wanted to bring him in, and Barcelona are interested in him as well. So it looks like we had the eye for these Brazilian and Argentinian players whilst we were in Germany. He does look like to be a really good winger. Kelso, he was one who didn't really get games for us when we were in charge of Dusseldorf. He played in the second team, and we even loaned him out back to Brazil. So it's nice to see that Kelso's carved himself out a career. He's only a rotation player, but he does look like he's got a lot of player traits. I'm not going to read them all out, but he's carved himself a pretty decent career. Franco Bella and Sevcic. We'll look at Bella first. I mean, I think he was the man who propelled us into the Bundesliga, and even in the Bundesliga, he scored a lot of goals in that first season. He was wanted by a lot of teams, but it looks like that Dusseldorf have held on to him. And if we look at his stats, because he only played half the season in the Bundesliga too, scored 3 goals, I think he was injured as well, but 11 goals in the first season, 18 goals in the second season, has dropped off a little bit over the last couple of years, but in the later season has scored 10 goals. But they all look like they're playing him on the wing as well, so they might be playing him as an inside forward or even a winger, because he's got 11 crossing. That's fairly decent for a player like Franco Bella. And Sevcic was a man we brought in really cheap. He was really cheap. We got him in for like 70k from Slovan Liberec, and we only had him for 1 year. But 21 goals in his later season. He's really come on good since he's been at Dusseldorf, and he's got some very good stats as well. Who's he wanted by? With £30 million. Schalke are after him. 41 caps, 31 goals. Sevcic looks to be settling very well at Dusseldorf, so I wouldn't be surprised if he had a big move coming into him. Any other players? Molyneux we had in. Petra Berger, the youth academy player, still at Dusseldorf. Only worth £5 million, but again, looks like a pretty decent player. He's carved a very good career for himself. Cengiz Oza, we've seen him at Palermo in Serie A. Barrios still there, the right back. He looked fairly decent. He's wanted by Milan, Atletico Madrid, Valencia. But, so yeah, Dusseldorf done pretty well for themselves. So what have they been like in the Bundesliga? So it was 22-23 we took over. So it was there. So that was the season we had. They finished 8th in the next season, 9th in the season after, 14th last season, but they have finished in 5th place in the league. Let me just double check, because I don't know if the season's finished. Yeah, so the season has finished, and they finished in 5th place, which is a Europa League place for Fortuna Dusseldorf. They were only 4 points behind Wolfsburg. And Wolfsburg were in 4th place last season. We'll be looking at them in a second. But Fortuna Dusseldorf have, I think, established themselves now as upper mid-table team in the Bundesliga. They have staved off relegation, which was the fear when we were in charge. So they've looked like they've done well for themselves. Did they win any silverware? Have they won any German Cups by chance? If we look at the competitions, let's have a look. I don't think they have. I think we would have known about it if they had. So yeah, they haven't won any German Cups, bless them. But we did well at Dusseldorf. We established them as an upper tier team, and they're not going to get relegated. They've got a lot of good players in their team, players that we brought in. So they've still got Sevcich, Franco Bella, Caetano, Barrios. They've still got those players in the team. So it looks like they've held on well and, done decent for themselves, have Fortuna Dusseldorf. So with them, we did finish in 6th place for 2 seasons, which, seeing as what we had, the work that we had to do, I think was a big achievement. So in the January, we jumped at the chance to go to Wolfsburg. They had a lot bigger budget than we had at Dusseldorf, because that was the problem with Dusseldorf. We didn't have a big budget, so we were always punching above our weight. And the chance to, I think it was like triple the wage budget and go from spending like 5-6 mil to like 20 mil, 30 mil in charge of Wolfsburg. So we jumped at the chance to take another team in Germany like Wolfsburg, and they were like in 13th place when we took over at Wolfsburg, and then we managed to get in those Champions League places, which was unheard of. We scraped in the Champions League play. I think it was Champions League. No, I think it was Europa League. We had Europa League in the first season, because that's right, we were fighting for Champions League, and we missed out towards the end to, I think it was Red Bull Leipzig. But we did get Europa League, and we did finish 4th, which, considering we were in 13th to start with, that's a pretty decent achievement to take them from 13th to 4th place. And then we went on an absolute dominating streak. We won the league in the following season. It took till I don't think that was last day. I think we did win it with a couple of games to go, but we did manage to scrape the league title. I thought it might have been the final day. My memory's very blurry. I'm trying to work out. I think it was final day we won the league title. But either way, we scraped to a league title in the first full season we had. It was obviously the second season after the first half of the previous year, but we did win the Bundesliga title, and then we came back and we retained our title. We won the German Cup, we did the domestic double, and Wolfsburg were now a top tier club. They were up there with the likes of Barca, Real Madrid, PSG, Man City, Liverpool, Man United. They were up there. They were one of the big teams. I think the only disappointment was when we got knocked out the Champions League. I think that was the disappointment. We could have stayed maybe one more year to try and have another go at the Champions League, but I thought I'd mix things up, move to a new country, see how things go. So, because we've only been away for one season, I mean, a lot of the Wolfsburg players we already know. Gun, Damjanovic, Foyth, Pepe, Edgardo Borgio. I would say he is probably my favourite player of the save, Edgardo Borgio. We had him on loan at Dusseldorf. We loaned him for 2 seasons, and then we brought him with us to Wolfsburg from Fortuna Dusseldorf. Only paid 13 mil for him, and he's now worth £57 million, and he is a fantastic left back. He even came out as gay, and I know that's something that does come out for Football Manager with like the new gens. He even came out as gay. So Edgardo Borgio leads in the line for everyone. Do you know what I mean? For everyone. So what a player he is. I mean, look at his stats. He's an absolute amazing left back. I mean, who else have we got? Mansour Bald, a player who, again, followed us from a former team. We had him at Austria Vienna, and we brought him to Wolfsburg, and he's such a good player, such a good deep-line playmaker. A lot of these players I would have brought with me to Napoli if I had the chance, if I had the money to do so. He's a world-class midfielder. Won the Bundesliga, won the German Cup, won the Super Cup. It'll be interesting to see how Wolfsburg do get on over 10 years. Will they become a Champions League winning team, or will they filter off as they get picked apart, as vultures come in like Barca and PSG, try to take their players away from them? So Pavlak, Jouard is not one of our players. They signed him when we left, but Spadges, nice to see him get a run in the team. Seegers, the Doc, I would say, is probably the best striker we had. I mean, Kusamaker for Napoli was a very good, underrated striker, but the Doc, man, he's number 30. We gave him number 9. They've taken his shirt away from him. Why have they taken his shirt away from him? But the Doc, £65 million. Liverpool and AC Milan are going to try and bring him in. I mean, again, we raided South America to bring him in. 24 years old, 10 years down the line, is he going to be that world-class striker? But another Klorban, Martelotto, Elmbach, Diaz, Verhoeven. I mean, like I say, a lot of these players we knew, we had them in last season, so they're not new players to us. I'm surprised they loaned up Muhammad Ali, mind, because he was very good for us. Muhammad Ali, a very good inside forward. Bertrand Moreno, we loaned him in, then got him in on a free. He's now fully trained as an inside forward, and that's probably his best position. Turned from French to Swiss. He's now worth £48 million. Bayern Munich want to bring him in. But I thought that this Wolfsburg team was better than our Napoli team. But it wasn't to be. And we took the charge of Napoli and won it all. Well, apart from the Italian Cup, the Coppa Italia. But, we're not going to count that. But the Napoli team that won the Champions League, we got very lucky with the loans. Cabellos and Estrada coming in on loan. We did have to sign a lot of players to get where we are, but, Murray was at the club when we came. Bustos was already arranged before we turned up. Militao, Finesca, Cini, Diawara, all Bracalo were all at the club when we arrived, so we were very lucky with the core players that we had. We just had to fill in those gaps, fill in the midfield gap, fill in the winger gap. And Napoli was the team that went for the title. And they won it. They won the Serie A title. We did lose to our rivals Roma in the Coppa Italia, but we did bounce back with a 94th minute winner from Frankie de Jong. For that moment alone, he is my favourite Napoli player. That long shot in the top corner, 94 minutes. He even got a goal before that in the game. He got us back in it at 2-1. And he managed to bring home that Champions League trophy. Frankie de Jong, you will go down in history, my friends. You will go down in history. So the only thing I think we'll go through is our former players shortlist. So a lot of these players we've already seen. So we're going to go through the ones that we haven't seen yet. Now, some players might have dropped off because they have retired. So they're Karjalainen. We'll look at Karjalainen first because I know he's not on this shortlist. I've got caps lock on, I'm not sure why. But Rasmus Karjalainen is a director of football. He has now retired, but he was our best winger when we were at Cups, and we were unfortunate to lose him when he went to a bigger club in Adana DS. But he did, go to Alaspoor and FC Eindhoven, but he is now a director of football. Hopefully he gets himself a job, and we can see what he's like 10 years down the line. But we'll have a look at some of these players. So obviously we've looked at some of them, but we'll have a look at some of the older players. Players like Issam El-Match, our first goalkeeper we had at Cups. We had him on loan for a couple of seasons from Ajax. He then moved to Ingolstadt and FC St. Pauli, so he is in the second division of Bundesliga. I think he's pretty much found his level, hasn't he? He is a Bundesliga 2 goalkeeper. He was never really a top goalkeeper. He did, well, no, I was going to say he did play in the Bundesliga, but no, he didn't get any games for Ingolstadt when they got promoted. So he got them promoted, and then they got a new goalkeeper. But he did go to St. Pauli in the second Bundesliga, and he has established himself as a second Bundesliga player. Milan Maricic, he was a midfielder we had at Cups. I think we had him on loan first. Yeah, we loaned him for 2 seasons, and then we bought him permanently for 300k. The money we got for being in the Europa League. For that first season, 7.04. It was his best season he had at Cups. He was such an important player in that midfield. I don't think we would have got where we did without him. Venuto, had him in Austria Vienna. Again, we arrived at Austria Vienna and he was the best winger we had. Scored so many goals from that right-hand side. And he did go back to Brazil, so he is back home in his homeland. Didn't get any caps, no youth caps to speak of. Looking at his attributes, he wasn't the best of players, but he turned up when we needed him to, and he was a very good player for us at Austria Vienna. Patrick Pence and Peter Arberjo, we've already looked at them as we were going through the former clubs. But Kaká, I know we've already looked at him in a couple of episodes ago, but Kaká was our lone striker we had in our Cups. We looked at his attributes and he was well above the play of the Finnish Premier League. But he got a cap for Brazil. He might only have just had the one, but he had a cap for Brazil. So that shows that we had some very good scouts and we could spot talent when we needed to. He did only score 5 goals in the first season and 9 in the second, but, you know, he was a good striker for what we needed. And he did go on to go back to Brazil, went on loan to Portugal a couple of times, so they did try him out in Europe to see how well he got on, but Santos gave him the chance, and he is now a very good striker for the Brazilian First Division. So Kaká, you've got your 1 cap. It shows that we have that talent for scouting. Miguel Luiz, we had him at Fortuna Dusseldorf. He's now playing in Bologna in the Serie A. 29 years old. He was a solid player for us in that second Bundesliga. He started a lot of games, and he even started a lot of games in the First Division back. But I think he sort of petered off a bit as we got better players in, like Marcos in that centre midfield. But Bologna took him on loan. They did sign for 5.5 mil, so we did almost double our money for him, really. 2.5 mil profit. So Miguel Luiz carved himself out a very good career in Serie A. Alexander Nubel, our goalkeeper we had at Fortuna Dusseldorf, he did move on to Augsburg, and he is now their first choice goalkeeper. We had him at Fortuna Dusseldorf, bought him for 3 million, sold him for 8.25. So again, they made a profit on him, and he was a solid goalkeeper. He was an upgrade on what we had, because I think we had Bernd Boesing in goal on loan from Schalke, who is now Germany's number 1 goalkeeper. So we had their number 1 goalie on loan whilst he was developing, but we knew we couldn't get him back on loan for the second year. So Nubel did come in, he stepped up well, and he was our first choice goalkeeper. We've looked at Caetano, we've looked at Bella, Santino, Fabio Gruber, the man from Wolfsburg's Youth Academy. We plucked him out, we stuck him on the wing, and now he's with a £44.5 million. He is first choice, and I'm glad we implemented some youth players into Wolfsburg. Last season he did 7.14. This season, same goals, not so many assists, a little bit lower average rating, but Fabio Gruber, for a winger, very decent stats. So we've got Mohamed Ali, who they loaned out to Stuttgart. I really don't know why they did that. He's worth £46 million. He won the league for us. He had some very important goals on that right-hand side. Not sure what happened. Maybe the new manager didn't like him, because I think it was... who was it they had in charge after me? I think it was Emery, they had in charge after me. So, Mohamed Ali, they just didn't like him. Didn't like him at all. Verhoeven, Moreno, Boggio, Mansorball, and the Doc. So that does round up the shortlist. So there we go, that's the shortlist. And I'm sure there are players I'm missing, because some players would have retired, like Karjalainen. But if there are any, let me know, and I can go back and we'll have a look. I'll show them off for you, just to see what they're getting up to now. So I think that does round up. I've been talking for a good solid 33 minutes as I've recorded, so it might be a bit of a long one. But I think that does round up the season. I think it is now time to retire from the game. We're going to resign as manager. Well, we'll not retire, we'll resign. Because if we resign, we can skip forward 10 years. So we have resigned as manager of Napoli. We won the Champions League. We did what we set out to do. We were only in charge for 1 season, but that was all that we needed. We won the Serie A. We won the Champions League. Job done. Who left? Antia, Klein, Cahill and Zamazzi all left. So they are my favourite personnel. So all that's left, my friends, is to go on 10 years' time. How are these clubs going to get on? Are Cups going to dominate Finland? Are Fortuna Dusseldorf going to keep themselves a top-tier German club? Are they going to qualify for Champions League? Are Austria Vienna going to win the Austria Bundesliga one more time and topple the Red Bull juggernaut? Are Wolfsburg going to win a Champions League trophy with the squad that we've assembled? And are Napoli going to try and defend the Serie A title? And the Champions League title go with? We will go on 10 years' time, and tune in next time for the final episode of Brexit Manager as we go 10 years in the future. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel for more Football Manager 2019 content. We upload the FM19 Brexit Manager every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, 6 PM GMT. It will be the last episode next time out as we go into the future, 10 years on. Thank you very much for watching.